So I wanted to create like a children's book cover. So you can see on the side, this is the layer menu. So there's a background, and I'll just show you what's on each layer. Think of a project like this like a layer cake, okay? Which is why I made a layer cake. But so this is the background. This is layer one. This is, this is on the bottom. So this is, all this stuff is in the back. And so I'm going to start hiding layers as I go forward, okay? So you can see what's on top of what and how things overlap. Okay, so you get the idea. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new project. So you just go to photopea.com and you do File, New. And because this is going to be like a logo, or if it's a children's book or something like that, it's going to be printed. So along here, you click print, okay? If you were making something for a video, like if you were making a video and you needed to do like a lower third graphic or something like that, you would click, or for a YouTube, you would pick screen, but you're printing this, so you hit print. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to click on letter size, okay? And I'm going to create this new project. So this is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, okay? And you can see it's got a white background, and that background is locked. So I'm going to make a logo for my business, and let's pretend that my business happens to be a bakery. So I'm going to go here to the shape tool. Usually when you look at the shape tool, when you first open Photopea, you're going to see a rectangle. There's different shapes. And a lot of times the best thing to do is pick the simplest shape. So I'm picking a rectangle, and I'm going to make the fill. I want to make it a pretty color. So I click on fill, and I can actually pick any color I want. So I'm going to go up here and pick like a nice kind of delicious looking pink color. Okay. And now I'm just going to pull out a rectangle. Now, if you go like this, it's going to pull it from the corner, but there's times when you want to pull it right from the middle. So if you want to pull it from the middle and have it expand out, and if you hit the Alt key and you pull out your shape, let's go here. So 4.25. There's my shape. Now, what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to duplicate it. So I'm going to do layer, duplicate layer. And now I've got two of them, and you see how they're stacked on top of each other. So I'm going to take this bottom one and I'm going to move it down. So that's my cursor. I'm going to move it down. Okay, now I'm going to change the color of it. So I go back to the shape tool and I can change the fill. So I'm going to make it a little bit darker. Same color family, just a little bit darker. Okay, so now how do I make these two rectangles look like layer cakes? Well, let's see. What do I need inside is icing. So let me just move this down, and I'm going to go inside here and make icing. So I need an ellipse. Okay, so I've decided that I'm going to make an ellipse. I'm going to hold my Alt key so that it kind of grows out from the middle. And there's my ellipse. And I want to make it a slightly different color, maybe a little darker. So I click on here, make it a little darker. Okay, now, again, how do I do this? Does not look anything like the cake that I show here. Nothing. Okay, I failed. So what do? I'm going to do Edit, Transform, Warp. And I'm actually going to take my cake, and you see these little handles, these little squares are handles, and you can pull it and warp it. Okay, and again, I don't need any drawing skill. I just have to sort of imagine how a cake would melt. Okay, and it's, it takes a little bit of practice, but I'm going to imagine how the icing would melt, and then, the limit is the handles. You can't pull from just any. If I click here, it's not going to work. It's got to be on the handles. But check up here. And now, if I take this shape okay, which is underneath that shape. You can see because it's underneath on the layer menu, and I move it up. And now it's that shape's overlapping it, but this still looks flat. So let me go back to this one, and I'm going to do edit, transform, warp, and I'm going to just pull it down so that it has a curved bottom like an actual cake. Okay. So now, I'm not going to do the whole thing because now that you get the idea, you get the idea. But I'm going to go to this one, the top one, and I'll do edit, transform, warp again. And I'll pull out the handles on the bottom. I'll pull down the handles on the top. Check that off. And because it's in layers, because it's a layer cake, you just go here. Okay, so now I need the top and I need the candles. Let's do the top real quick. So I need a new shape. So I go here, and again, I hold my Alt key here. And I want to change the color just a little bit, make it a little darker. I seem to have that darker color in reserve here. It'll put up the last several colors you used up here. So that's a nice nifty feature. But now I'm going to need to warp that. So edit, transform, warp, and let's get it nice and drippy. Okay, I think that's good. And I'm going to move it down. Okay. And now I'm looking at this one, and it looks kind of like a flapjack. So let me fix that one. Edit, transform, warp. And you're going to notice as you're working that you're going to be happy with something, and then later you're going to want to change it. And the nice thing is you have the flexibility to do that. And this also gives you a really nice notion of how layers work. Okay, so because it's a layer cake, so it's an analogy for that. Now I need to make candles. I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to make a rectangle for the candles, and now I'm totally going to switch colors, but let me make the candle first. So let me make the candle, and now I'm going to switch its color. Okay, and now I'm going to edit, transform, warp again. But this time, what I want to do is I want to zoom in. So let me zoom in here, and now let me do edit, transform, warp. And a lot of times what you'll find is that you can zoom way in with the shape tool and you don't lose any detail. It doesn't pixelate. And that's because these shapes are vector-based. So what it means is you're used to pixels, which means that when you zoom way into a picture that's made of pixels, eventually it starts pixelating. You see all these little dots. Vector images, vector graphics are based not on pixels, but they're based on the X, Y, the grid, so there's the X goes across and the Y, and then, the plotting points on a curve. So mathematically, we know there's an infinite number of points on a grid, and that, when you pull one point to a different spot, it'll change and warp the shape. And no matter how much you zoom in, there's never going to be a point where it starts pixelating because it's made out of these plots on a graph. If you could remember back in 6th grade where the teacher gave you all these coordinates and you had to make dots at all the coordinates and then you had to connect them and you made a picture, that's pretty much what a vector graphic is. The nice thing about vector graphics, they're a little bit trickier to work with than just drawing in Photoshop. But if I took all these shapes, and I blew it up the size of a billboard, it would still have a full resolution. It would still look right. So that's the nice thing about vector graphics. So let me just hit the check mark. Now there's drawbacks to vector graphics in that now I can't erase it. Okay, it's going to say the layer is not editable. So that's one of the negatives of vector graphics. There's a workaround for that, though, which I'll show you in a minute. Let me just make real quick, I'm going to make the flame on the candle, and then I'm going to show you how to do the lettering. So I need an ellipse. First, I'm going to draw it. Then I'm going to change the color. Okay. And then I'm going to do edit, transform, warp. Okay. And again, I don't have to draw it. I just have to warp the shape. So believe it or not, there are a lot of people who are really good at this who can't draw at all. Okay. You can actually be pretty good at creating shapes in Photopea or Photoshop and not really have drawing skills. So, and plus all you need is a mouse. You don't need a drawing tablet. I'm going to take this layer and duplicate it. And I'm going to take the duplicate and I'm going to do edit, transform, scale. I'm going to make the duplicate smaller. Okay. And now I'm going to change its color. And there you go. There's my candle. Now I can zoom out again. So I just go to this magnifying glass, hit the minus, and zoom out. And now I want to make more candles, but I don't want to have to draw them again. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold this. I'm going to click on this shape, and I'm going to hold the Shift key, click on this shape, and click on this shape. So I've got these 3 shapes, and I want to go. I'm going to do layer, duplicate layer. It duplicated all 3 of them. And since they're all selected already, I can make another candle. And now, see how they're a little darker over here? So they're all selected. When you want to select multiple layers, you hold the Shift key down and you click on the layers you want to select. So now, all I have to do is layer, duplicate layer, and they're all 3. All these copies are selected. I'm going to now move them over here, okay? So if somebody was turning 3, I'm done, okay? So I'm going to pretend whoever I'm drawing this for is turning 3 because I don't feel like doing anymore. And now I need to write happy birthday. So now I'm going to go to my lettering tool. And I already picked a font, but if you want a different font, you just go down here and there's previews of the different font. But this is a cute little font, I think, for a bakery. I've decided that I want the text centered, so I go here and center it. You can change the size later. I happen to pick 58 pixels, but you could change the size. You go T for text, and you pull out a text box, and you can change the size of it. You can adjust it for how big you want it. But now I'm going to just start typing. I'll make it a little bigger, I think. Okay. And now, let's see. Rachel's Sweet Treats. Okay. So that's going to be the name of my bakery, Rachel's Sweet Treats. But I don't like how small the font is. So I have to highlight it and then change the size. Okay. That's a much better size. So now I'm going to do something else. I'm going to click warp, and under style, I'm going to pick bulge. Try bulge. Okay. That looks cool. And I can adjust it. Okay. And now I can keep changing it. So let's see, a warp, none. Let's see. Let's try shell. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, and you can see you can adjust it. Let's see. Arc, bulge. Arc lower. That might be good. Okay, so let me just pull that down. And now I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm going to move this here. Okay. So now I have like this nice little logo for my bakery. I can edit the text, I can mess around with it. But now I just want to go over just real quick. I'm going to want to save this because maybe I decide that I'm going to do something different, or maybe I'm going to add in more text, or maybe I'm going to reuse this image in a business card. So I want to save this Photoshop file with all the layers so it's really easy to edit it later. Okay. So all I'm going to do is save as PSD, and it's going to go into my hard drive, and it's going to say new project .psd. The smartest thing you could do is I would rename it immediately. Okay. So if you don't do that, it's just going to be called new project 39. You're never going to be able to find it again. So I'll call it Rachel Sweet Treats. Okay, so now I remember what it is. But the other thing, which is super important, is there's no spell check in Photopea or Photoshop. So sometimes if you're writing anything significant, you're better off writing it in Google Docs, or better off writing it in Word or some other program that actually will spell check for you, and then copying and pasting the text. If you go into the text tool and you hit paste, you can paste from Google Docs, and it'll understand that it is text. Okay. And then you can format in Photopea. Otherwise, since there's no spell check, it's really a pain in the neck. But the nice thing is, if I wanted to say, edit this, I can go to that layer, hit text, and I can actually edit this text. Okay. So now, if I'm done and I want to export this, I'm going to do File, Export As, and I'm going to probably export it as a JPEG. Okay. Now, that being said, what if I say want to make stickers and I want to be able to peel these stickers off? Or let's say I want to make a decal or something that has a clear background. Or let's say I want to make a t-shirt and I don't want this white box on here. Okay. So what I might have to do is hide the background layer and just have this. And like, this is good. This is good if, say, you're doing a film or a video and you want the logo to show at the very beginning, or you're creating a box and you want to put this on the lid of the box, but you don't want to have to worry about this white rectangle around it. So in that case, I would do File, Export As, PNG. A PNG is a portable network graphic, and a PNG will not have that white box around it. So we use it think of it portable. What does portable mean? It means you can pick it up and move it anywhere. So the reason why it's portable is because it doesn't have that white box around it. So I can pick this up and move it to an animation, and it becomes a cake in my animation. I can pick it up and move it to a video, and it becomes part of my lower third graphics in a video. I can pick it up and move it to another picture, and it becomes a cake in a party. So it's portable because it doesn't have that white box around it. So you would export it as a JPEG if you were just going to print this as, say, a birthday card. You would export it as a JPEG if you had a picture here and you were making, like, say, a book cover. You would export this as a JPEG. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, there's the text here. Hold on. Okay, so I would export this as a JPEG if I was writing a book. Okay, and I wanted the book cover. But if you need a clear background, you would export it as a PNG, and you would hide the background layers. Whatever's visible when you export it will be visible in the final thing that you export. But always save your project. Don't just export it and then say you're done. So if just real quick, if I wanted to, say, make a sticker for this, I wanted to export it and then have a printing company make stickers for me, I would need some sort of a shape here, like an oval. So let me just go here And I'm going to make I'll start with the Alt key so that it grows from the middle. I'm going to make an oval here. Okay, and don't worry if it goes off the edge of the page, and don't worry about the color because I can change the fill color. So I'm going to change the fill to, I don't know, like a pretty light blue, I think. Yeah, that's nice. And now I'm going to do edit, transform, scale. Okay, if I hit the shift key, it will shrink in proportion, but I don't need that right now. I just need to be able to shrink it, and you can also move it. Hang on. So I can actually change the proportions. And I can, let me just go smaller. So I can, okay, there. Now I can do edit, transform, scale, and I can just push it upwards. Okay, and now it becomes like a sticker or an actual logo. Now, you see how it goes off the edge of the page? That's not good because when it prints, it's going to print off the edge of the page. If anything like that happens, for one thing, you can move it. But for another thing, you can take all this stuff and shrink it, or you can make the page slightly larger. So what I can do is I can go here, hit the shift key, hit the shift key. I'm selecting multiple layers real quick. And I just go above here. So now I'm going to select everything here on up. Without selecting the, so again, you're holding the shift key down. Give me a sec. There we go. Okay, so now I've got this selected, but this not selected, the shape not selected. And now I'm going to do edit, transform, scale, and I can actually change the size of this without changing the size of what's underneath it. And then I can take this and move it, and then edit, transform, scale, and change the size of this as well. Okay, so now you have like a sticker that you can put on your bakery's boxes, or like I've got some students who are creating products. If they want to create a sticker or a decal that they can put on whatever product they're creating. But it also could be like a logo for your company. It could be an image that you want to put on, like a book that you're illustrating, etc. So if you look at all these shapes, they were all circles once or rectangles, and then they were warped, every single one. Okay. The grass, I'll just show you real quick how I made the grass. File, and then I'll take any questions. So file new, we want to do print, and we want to do letter size, create, and now I'll show you my quick trick for making grass. I'm just going to take the lasso tool, and I'm going to zigzag here with the lasso tool, and then go underneath here, and I've created this shape. I'm going to change the foreground color to green. Okay. And the background color is white, and I'm going to go here to this, which is a gradient. Ta-da, grass. Okay. But now watch this. Edit. You can duplicate it, but I'm going to do transform warp. It says the layer's locked here. Okay. Edit, transform, warp, and I can actually make my grass like blowing in the breeze. Okay. The only thing is I did this on a white background, so it kind of messed up the background. So what you may want to do is, let me get rid of that background. So, so I would just do select color range, click on that white, and then just hit the backspace key on your keyboard and delete it. Okay, now you've just got the grass. If you take the shape tool and like it's just really like, let's say I want to make a character. It's just not that big a deal to make to make a, hold on a second. You hit okay. So, like to make a character with kind of big googly eyes and so I mean doing this, it's just like there I've got a character, so you could really do a lot of really cool animations, and you don't have to be good at drawing in order to create, and you start noticing that a lot of the animations you see, like especially on Cartoon Network, like the Powerpuff Girls and stuff, that it's pretty obvious that whoever created that animation was manipulating the shape tool, because they're really made of very simple shapes, and you don't necessarily need to be good at drawing in order to create very cute cartoons.